It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Morning Marketing Machine, and I'm very happy today because I have a special guest. So Ashley Armstrong is an e-commerce expert and best-selling author, helping sellers to navigate the ins and outs of Amazon to scale their business to 8 figures and beyond. So she's not just somebody who got started yesterday. After building a 7-figure business, she went on to establish an e-commerce consulting format that specializes in navigating Amazon's hidden rules of engagement. She's helped thousands of sellers position their product lines to increase sales, build a loyal customer base, and drive revenue. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. You're amazing.
Yeah. I definitely I've heard so many great things about you. I know we got some friends that have talked so great about you that I'm excited to kind of have you on here and kind of like, obviously we're in the e-commerce space, so definitely have a lot in common here. So I'm looking forward to talking to you more here today. So I guess for people that don't know about you yet, can you tell us a little bit like kind of how you got started kind of on this journey of yours?
Yeah. Well, I'm Ashley Armstrong, and I'm the hidden rules expert, and I help established product companies find millions of dollars they're leaving on the table. And that's really sort of like the big umbrella aspect. But how I got started was like most people. I wasn't living in my own country, and I had to figure out like, what am I going to be doing for work and money? And I also was a young mom. So I started to, first I was a naturopath and childbirth educator because I knew that. I came from a pro athletic background. And from there, I was cultivating, creating products. And then I went into manufacturing. And then I figured out, ooh, this online thing is a really great big space that I need to be in after I published my 6 books and got a bestseller. And I'm like, oh my God, Amazon is totally the place to be. And so, from there to here in the last, decade, it's just been building online stores and then working and partnering up with some of the biggest names in our industry and building courses and programs and thousands of students and software tools. It's just been one of the most amazing journeys. And now I'm on my own and creating programs and challenges. And really, for the most part, I'm an advisor for well-established product companies and going in as a consultant in some cases and training their team and helping them understand, how to leverage the largest platforms in the world, how to fish for new customers and customer retention strategies and properly positioning the product lines to really boost their conversion rates and all that other fun stuff. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah. So how did, like, obviously you've been doing this for a while and you're really good at it. Like, how did you get started in terms of like all of these different amazing things that you're able to do to help people? Like, I'll tell you, there's a lot of it I don't understand. Even doing this for 6 years myself. Like, so how did you start like understanding that part of it, and so you could kind of take it to help other people?
Yeah, I really did get started by wanting to learn how to publish books. That's literally the first thing, is how to publish a book and get it online. I'm one of those individuals where I try to position my children to understanding that mommy's not going to be here one day. So I wrote books about my children, for my children. So if I died early, I was leaving something behind for them, how to be an entrepreneur, how to deal with bullies and stuff like that. And that's really what opened my eyes to learning and understanding how this big online platform was like, oh my God, like you cannot avoid it. And this was like a decade ago. So of course, like, anyone else, you have to learn from someone who's done it before. You go to college, university to learn how to do something. I took programs and I connected with individuals and I hired mentors and literally anything I can kind of grab my hands around to like understand. Like you said, there's so much to learn. Like even I don't know everything. So you have to really create that space and that connection and that sort of little pool of people who everyone has something to bring to the table and everyone's helping each other out and everyone learns something and they're all kind of sharing it for the most part. So between that and programs and courses and hiring one-on-one mentors, going into super high level mastermind groups, it's just kind of been like a jumping effect. And it's a scale. It's really, you start small and then you just kind of get bigger and you get bigger and you work with bigger people and bigger spaces and whatnot. And that's really how I got started. It's just taking programs and connecting with the best people I could possibly find to help educate me and shorten my learning curve, because I don't have all the time in the day to figure it out on my own. So I'd rather someone else teach me about all their pitfalls and making sure I don't make the same mistakes they did. And then therefore, whatever I learn, you know, from between either myself or my clients, of course, I turn around and help, you know, the new people that I bring into my space and my circle and stuff like this. So yeah, it's pretty much how I got started.
Nice. Yeah, I know that's one thing I've always tried to do too. Is like I've always kind of tried to be the small fish in the bigger pond as much as possible. Like try and learn from people that are like in my opinion like much smarter than me. like
Oh my God, yes.
I want to be
If
the
you're the
10.
smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You were talking obviously a little bit earlier about like you had an athlete background. So like, how do you think
Mm.
that helped you in terms of on this road as like an entrepreneur?
You know, honestly, after being in different business capacities, you know, over my adult life or even teen life, because I literally was like making ashtrays out of clay at the, you know, at the young age of 5 and selling them on the beach. I think I was just born with this, you know, entrepreneur gene. I can't get rid of it. But when it comes to athletes in the entrepreneurial space, athletes are so focused on what it is that they're trying to accomplish, and they're okay with feedback, and they're okay with failing, and they're okay with detecting and correcting what's working and what's not working for them in order for them to execute to be the best ability that they are. You know, like a tenth of a second can make you a winner, especially for downhill ski racing, right? So, you know, just angulating and, you know, your arm just one little way so the wind passes, you know what I mean? Like just one tiny little tweak that you can do can get you that gold, right? So when you have a mindset where you're already prepared to fail, you're already prepared to hurt yourself, I guess you could say, really, you're prepared to like go into it with everything that you got. And it really is a mental mindset. Because if you go into playing any sport and your head is not even in it, you're like dealing with the fight that you had with someone or a problem that you're having here, you're going to see it being played out on the field or within the sport. Like you're just not focused. But, you know, if you are able to like zone in, to meditate, to visualize before you get, you know, get yourself into the mode of I'm going to go in and I'm going to go kick butt, you're going to come out, whether it's a win or a lose, but you're going to come out feeling really, really amazing because you accomplished something. So if you take that same mindset and you put it into an entrepreneurial space, you're definitely going to be 10 times further along than everybody else who did not grow up or they did not have that background of detecting, correcting, getting feedback, taking the feedback, not taking it so personally, you know what I mean? And things of that nature. So I've always found anyone who has even sports as a child, but they're not really an athlete as an adult, but just having any little foundation, whether it's team sports or individual sports, they're able to get through the pitfalls in the entrepreneurial space 10 times faster and better than people who have not. And from my own personal experience, that is.
Yeah, and this brings up a point that I'm always talking about, I'm always thinking about too, is like the fact that it's never a straight line. There's always a ton of setbacks that happen and trying to figure out how you're going to get past that. And so like this is actually obviously the point of this show in the first place is like every business owner deals with this. And you're going to constantly deal with this. So
Yep.
like coming from you from like an athlete perspective, like this is something like I know I've struggled with like myself is like, what helps you best in those situations? Like you were talking about the focus. What helps you to like for you personally when you're like, all right, I know I've read a ton of books, like they talk about how Michael Phelps has done it, and other people are like, you're doing it day in and day out. But like what has helped you best to kind of focus and like, all right, I've got to get this done. I don't care about what type of feedback I'm going to get. Let's take it and go back and go forward. Like what has helped you best in those situations?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, the biggest thing for me is you're a one person show or a one person band when you are in the entrepreneurial space, when you're starting out on your own. Sometimes you're bootstrapping it because you don't have a lot of capital. So you have to learn everything and execute everything on your own. And it's exhausting sometimes. But putting yourself out there and trying to make as many connections as possible and create a nice group of support, getting into masterminds, into online Facebook communities, or even local sort of like meetups, you know what I mean, where there are different entrepreneurial groups. That's kind of like number one, because if you think about it, like for a 9 to 5 job, you go into an office and an office has a ton of employees because it's like a car, it's an engine. There's a billion moving parts. And so you have to have someone who's an expert or someone who's dedicated to executing a certain part of that business in order for it to move forward. But when you're your only person, you're the only moving part. And so getting around other people where there's no cooler, like cooler talk, when you're by yourself, you're not walking in and going, hey, I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm going to go talk to the person who's over in marketing, or the person's over in accounting, or the person who sits at the desk next to me. So surrounding and creating yourself that support system is ridiculously important. And that is probably like number one. Like, you need to have someone to talk to. You need to have someone to bounce the ideas off of. Even if it's just like, vomiting like your problems, or just talking it out loud, just lifting it off the shoulder. So that's definitely number one. Number two is fully embracing the flip out, the freak down, and the fallout. A lot of people are like, hold back and try not to freak out, try to calm down. And I'm like, no. You got to expel that energy. Like, if you have to bawl your bloody eyes out, go do it. If you have to lie in the fetal position for a few minutes, go do it. Just lean into it and then push through it. Let the energy go, because once you are able to kind of like get it out, then you can reset yourself and get back up and have a clearer mind of going, okay, what is the next best step for me to move forward? Do I need to talk to someone? Do I need to go to the bank? Do I need to call? You know what I mean? Like, just what's the right next step? And so really at the end of the day, those are like the first two foundation things. It's just, if you have to cry, cry, and then find someone that you can talk to who understands, because we're a special type of breed of people. Not everyone understands what it means to be an entrepreneur. They like to think they do. And a lot of people think like the grass is greener and it's a shiny object. And I'm like, I want to be an entrepreneur as well, which is great. And it's wonderful. And I highly recommend people give her a go, but you have to be due diligent and you have to be realistic with what it actually takes. And most people don't have any clue. So surround yourself with people like yourself, because they do have a clue, and they will be able to share, your wins, your losses, your freakouts with you, because they relate to it,
Yeah. And definitely, I mean, like, the part of the mastermind and in terms of like having a network, I mean, what we do is a very lonely existence. I mean, especially the way the virus has made everything too, where you're typically at home, like on your computer or anything along those lines. So at that point, if you can have a network of people, or even your, like, I think I was a guest on someone else's podcast, and we're talking about like having a supportive partner, or like the same thing as you were talking about, where you can talk about things. Because I mean, what we go through is hard. I mean,
it is,
and it's just you most of the time.
Yeah. It was really interesting. My father, like, I've been doing this forever, and no one really understands it. He said, we're total solo. We're by ourselves. We only have ourselves to rely on. Unless we put ourselves out there to make connections and have that, create that support group, where, you're kind of like a duck just floating on the water. And, even with my family knowing what I do, but they don't really know what I do in a certain aspect. He saw a podcast for another person where they're really having the same conversation that you and I are having, and how lonely it is and how difficult it is. Like, and with everyone with the pandemic having to be at home, forced to stay there, forced to try to communicate, forced to try to like put themselves out there to reach out to people. He finally had the light bulb that went off. He's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how hard you work. I had no idea how lonely it was. I had no, like, it really, like, someone else had to tell him. Basically, it couldn't come from me. You know what I mean? So, in one aspect, there's lots of silver linings over what we've experienced in the last 8 months. There's been a lot of accidental entrepreneurs, people who've been thinking about it. They're sitting on the fence about wanting to start a business. Then they finally had to do it. They're like, I have the time to do it, or I need to replace my income. So there is no, holding back. It's like all or nothing kind of thing. So that, there's a lot of really beautiful things that have happened over the last, 6 to 8 months because of all of this, for those who actually took charge of it and leaned into it.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of one of the things I also wanted to ask you about too, and transition a little bit here, but this gets back into the other idea of being an entrepreneur, is the fact that it never seems to be successful the first time you do it. There's always going to be setbacks at it. So you brought up something before. I know when we talked before about are you was it flexing your failure muscle? Can you kind of go into that a little bit? Because I know that's something that everyone's always like, well, I'm scared of failing, or any of those kinds of things. And I don't look at it as failure. I look at it as feedback. But if you can kind of go into a little bit of what what you're thinking in terms of flexing your failure muscle.
Yeah, that is a term that I've coined, and I shout it from the rooftops.
Mhm.
And, you always want to ask someone, how much are you flexing your failure muscle? Are you flexing your failure muscle? And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, okay, well, just take your look at it for a second. We are programmed in education, with society, that failure is unacceptable. You can't get a C, you can't get a D, you can't drop out of class, you can't, you know what I mean? Like you start a business and it didn't end up working out. How dare you? Like, shame on you. And there's a big failure and whatever, which is complete crap in my opinion. You know what I mean? Failure is the most important aspect in every part of life, but especially in business, right? And just like a muscle, the more you do it, the stronger it gets, the easier it becomes to do something. Failure is the same thing. So yes, it has a negative connotation to it, but you want to switch it around into the positive side of things, because the more you fail, the more lessons you learn, the faster you get your butt up and you get moving. So you want to fail fast, fail forward, and keep going. And that's really also ties back to being an athlete, because athletes fail a lot. They don't always win every game. They don't always win every race. So you have to get back up and do the darn thing all over again and kick butt the next time. You know what I mean? So, also when you think back into it, and this is what really gets me, especially I have children, grade 5 and grade 7. And even last year, one of their teachers was really hard on that whole failure notion. And my kid came home flipping out about like, oh, my teachers would fail and I failed. My teacher's like really mad at me because I failed and da da da. And I was just like, I had to like reset my own kid's mindset, because I'm like, no, mommy wants you to fail. It's okay to fail. Don't worry about that part, because you're learning lessons. What did you learn from this? What do you think you can do better from this? So for next time. So like I had to have that conversation. But when we think about toddlers, they're learning how to walk. They fail, they fall down on their face, they get back up. What do? We applaud them. We're like, oh my God, yay, keep going, try it again. When did that stop? Why did we stop doing that as we got older in life?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's just one of those things that really irks me, but it is one of the most amazing things that if you embrace it and if you just follow right through it and just continue moving forward, you'll find that flexing that failure muscle will be your biggest asset as a business owner.
Yeah, definitely. I there's a book I read on the book was it Mindset, where they talk about the idea of like a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and there's always this label of failure, and you're scared of it, and it, it's really, in essence, if you're looking at the growth mindset part of it, where it's not like, am I a success, am I a failure, it's what am I learning, and that's kind of goes back to what you're talking about there, just that it's how you can push yourself. It's how, like when I'm looking at myself, I'm not looking at from the standpoint of, oh, I failed at this. I mean, yeah, it didn't work, but that
Yeah.
you need to come at it from the perspective, am I learning from this? Like you were saying, like how am I going to grow from this? And eventually, yeah, you'll get there. I mean, that's the thing. I know you as an athlete, you're in a very unique position to understand that, versus someone like me who hasn't done it.
Yeah.
But so that kind of another question I did want to ask you as well is, like, obviously you've talked about your athlete background a little bit before, and obviously you've talked about a lot of the Amazon side and the business side of as well. What's something about us that people may not know about you?
Something that people, oh my gosh, may not know about me. All right. Well, I was a naturopath and childbirth educator, which kind of helped me also get into this space of creating my own products at home. So that was really interesting. And I also spent 14 years of my life in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. I have places in Canada and there, and we go back and forth depending on the seasons and whatnot. And so I had a very beautiful opportunity and experience to live in a completely different country, completely different language as an expat, and getting to see the world through different eyes. And I didn't have the North American pressure on how I raised my children or how I did life, breathing down my neck. I really got to make my own rules. So that was probably, I'd say, one of the biggest takeaways that I'll take to my grave. It was like one of the most amazing experiences. If you're able to like leave the safety and comfort of your own place and travel the world, vacation is one thing, because you're on vacation. You're blindsided to having fun and going to, tourist destinations or whatever. But if you're able to have a little bit of an extended stay and really understand what it means to like live on a day-to-day basis in different areas of the world, even different areas of your country, because every state or every province, I'm Canadian, is different, and how they do things is different. And you can learn from all of that if you get really like nitty-gritty with it. So that's probably one of the cool things that a lot of people don't know about me.
All right. So what would you say was really different in terms of when you were living there versus say like when you're in
Oh
North
my God,
States?
it's night and day. It's
Yeah.
totally like 50 years behind. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, night and day. You can pay cops off, not so much anymore. But you know, the way of life is ridiculously different. They're massively, massively dedicated to family. I mean, like we could really take a page from their book. I mean, family is number one. When both my children were born there, and so if I'd go down to the beach, you know, with my kids and all the playthings around or whatever, and I'd have a local family sitting next to me. Everyone's huddled underneath an umbrella, and a 15-ish-year-old boy would come over and see my kid, little toddler, playing in the sand, and pick my kid up and then take him back to their family. And at first I'm like, holy crap, what do you like? There's a stranger picking my kid up and taking, they're like literally right next to me. So it's not like that big of a deal, but still. But then all the children, even in the teens, were playing with the kid, and they always like pinch the cheeks, and they're like kissing the kid on the cheek, and they're like, you know, can they have some food? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And then, you know, give them some fruit or some cucumbers or whatever. And I'm just like, do you know any 15-year-old boys up here who go and play with children? Or girls who go and pick up and play with children who are complete
Right.
strangers? You know, so like they're really family oriented. They slow down. Siestas is like, it's scientific proof that we should be taking a little power naps in the middle of the day anyways, but that's just part of their culture. You know what I mean? That's not the only culture in the world that does siestas, mind you, but you know, just slowing down, smelling the roses, enjoying what's going on around you. There's lots of pros and cons no matter where you live in the world, no matter what country, and whether it's first world or second world, you know, it doesn't really matter. There's going to be pros and cons. But yeah, when it comes to just the way of life and how communities band together, when you're an expat and you're not living in your own country, you end up being able to choose your family, you know? So I created a massively huge community down there. I still run it to this day. I have a 1,400 mothers only support group for the community of Los Cabos. And it's just about like banding together, helping people out, you know, donating, going to the barrios, you know, giving, you know, doing soup kitchens and, you know, giving back and buying water trucks and sending them out there. And just, it's all about service and helping each other. So yeah, it's pretty amazing when you get to kind of put yourself into a completely different lifestyle than what you were born and raised into.
Oh, very, very cool. So as you're kind of talking about that, kind of sounds like that kind of turned into a little bit of your purpose at that point. This kind of gets into one of the questions that I always want to know from people as well is like at the end of the day, money is only money.
Mm-hmm.
Like many people like that I respect, and I think are way smarter than me, are that are making probably billions of dollars. And basically, it's like after a certain point, like money isn't really what's going to get you going. Like
Right.
so I would ask you like what's your purpose? Like is that your purpose in terms of why you do what you do? Is like what exactly is your purpose for getting up and getting going every day?
Um, well, I'm a service person.
Hmm.
You know, like there's the five love languages. If you haven't read it, it's a really great book, people. And understanding your spouse as well. But understanding just kind of, you know, what sort of gets you going, what excites you. I just love helping people. Like I've started helped start so many businesses. It's ridiculous. You know, whether it's up here or even down there in that capacity, I just like seeing people winning. I want people to surpass me. It's an innate, I can't get rid of it. I think I was born with it. You know, so my purpose now, because I'm a mom, my purpose is my children for sure. Before that, it was just serving and helping and teaching and growing people because in the sports background. And then I went into teaching, coaching, racing, and running events and programs for, you know, ski resorts and everything else like that. It was still in service. And when you're a coach, a sports coach, it's service based for the most part. And then with children, you know, my job is just to make sure that I'm preparing them for reality and trying not to break their spirit. You know, if you think back to when we were younger, a lot of times our spirits would get broken. It's like, you're artistic, but you need to go be a cop because it's a government job. You know what I mean? It's safe. You know what I mean? So no, you can't do art classes or whatever it might be. Where nowadays, I think people are starting to understand that we need to cultivate where we're naturally gifted and what we're good at and not trying to grow a strength that we don't like or we don't we don't enjoy. So my purpose is to just prepare my children. And so if I do pass away tomorrow or an hour from now, they're ready to go. They understand they have enough tools in their toolbox to continue on with life. And that they're going to be, a mark on this world that's going to provide more good. It's a ripple effect. And I agree with you, like money is one aspect, but money is not even tangible in my personal perspective. It's an energy, and it's an energy that passes between people. So it either is going to stop at you or it's going to go through you, depending on how resistance you are towards that energy. Because we all have different blocks. We have mental blocks, 6 inches between your ears, between different capacities, mom issues, dad issues, money issues, anger issues, like, you can name it. It's like a gazillion list, it's so long. But yeah, so my purpose really is just to help people aspire to be the best versions of themselves, including my children. And just to enjoy this one life that we have. Like, I don't understand, why a lot of times I see a lot of empty shells of individuals who are just walking around. They have no aspirations. They don't have any dreams. They're not going after anything. They're just walking in, punching a time card, going in robot mode, punching a time card, going out, sitting in front of the TV, or like, whatever their after, work sort of activities might be. And then they just do it all over again. And it's just rinse and repeat. And as much as I totally understand that aspect, because not everyone can be an entrepreneur, there's a specific place for every individual within this life, and every single aspect needs and deserves to be respected. Every single job deserves to be respected, no matter how high or how low, because it's all very valid and necessary to make the ecosystem of our lives continue. But, it kind of makes me sad sometimes as well, because I have so much ambition. I can't handle it. It's just oozing out of me. I'm just like, go, 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 go. Like, I literally have to have people to slow me down, because I'm just like, new idea, let's go, new idea, let's go, and so if anything, I would love to try to spark a fire in someone where they, as you said, they're afraid to fail, and like switch that mindset for them. Be like, failing is your best friend. It's okay. The first time you do anything, you're gonna suck at it. Be okay with that, because anything that we first learn how to do, we're going to suck at it. And then the second time and the third time, it gets easier, because we know what we're doing then. We're not trying to fiddle around, looking at instructions or books or listening for someone to tell us what to do, no matter what we're doing in life. So that's really where I like to hang out, is kind of in that inspirational, push you, like a little bit harder, be your cheerleader, and warn you of all the crap that happened to me, so you don't have to go and do it yourself.
Well, and what you're saying too, I mean, it's I think inherent in the way we are as humans too. Like, we are always trying to go towards the path of least resistance in general. We don't want to deal with any setbacks in general. We want, if we can, like, why do you think like Netflix is so great? And with the virus, everyone's doing like e-commerce, obviously. It's like, it's the easy thing to do. We don't want hard things. So in that in a lot of ways completely conflicts with the idea of being an entrepreneur, where you're constantly doing things you've never done before. You're falling on your face like 5,000 times a day.
A lot.
And you have to get up and do it again. Most people are not built to deal with something like that. They're gonna want to retreat back into the path of least resistance. It's how we are. So it really is difficult, I think, as an entrepreneur to stick with it at that point. But that kind of, like, one of the things you were bringing about that I also wanted to ask you is, like, you were talking about the different parts that you excel at, the different parts that you're really good at. What would you say is like the part of the business that you actually love the most out of all that?
I'm an advisor.
Yeah.
100%. My zone of genius is advising. As I said before, I'm a visionary idea strategist, and I'm the cheerleader, and I'm like, go, go, go. You give me a problem within 2.2 seconds. I can like map out, okay, go this route. This is what's going to happen, good and bad. And then this route, okay, this is the possible outcome, good and bad. And this route, and that's good, but what I mean? Like, and just pointing fingers and getting everyone who's on that team, like, that fired up. I'm just like, you're good at that. You run with that. You're good at that. You run with that. And so really at the end of the day, my zone of genius is the visionary strategist who's an advisor to a company.
Oh, really cool. So
or to a person.
so how do you keep yourself and others motivated at that point, when it's like, because we all deal with those motivational lapses, like,
oh gosh, yes. Oh my God. When I moved homes We renovated one of our homes, and like, I mean, we spent about 4 months renovating it, so I wasn't technically working. And then we were going to sell it, and then the market crashed. And then so we couldn't sell it. And then so all those plans that we had in place just totally like, they just blew up in our face. And all the money we spent to renovate and everything. And I was just like, oh my God. And because we moved, you know, trying to get like, you know, jobs and for me, clients and whatever kind of going again, it was so hard. Like anytime you do move like a larger, not just across town, but like at a state or at a province or at a country, it's like a whole year to bounce back. It really 100% is. It takes a year to kind of get back into your groove again. And I was aware of that going into it because I had lots of friends who had done it. They had warned me, but you just don't know until you go through it, obviously, right? And so after working my butt off and renovating and then getting the thing listed, and then the market crashed, and then we're like, oh crap, pull the thing off again because we're not going to be selling this thing for 500 grand less or whatever it might be, you know. And I was in a full slump, like, I mean, full on like depression kind of thing. I couldn't go near electronics, I couldn't touch my phone, I couldn't go near my computer. I literally, like, if I would see a ding of a notification, I go right into anxiety mode, like panic attack almost. Like I'm total, you know, I'm an open book, so it is what it is, you know, in that particular aspect. But I had to just pull back, like for my own sanity. And I'm like, I don't really know if I want to continue doing this. I don't know if I want to continue doing that. I don't know where I'm going to go. And so I didn't have motivation for a while. But what I did do is I reset myself. And I knew that electronics bothered me. And I knew that trying to do the social stuff bothered me. And it just wasn't working for me. So I just literally lived in chapters, or indigo nowadays. I was like reading books like a mad woman. I wasn't watching TV. I, you know, had no electronics around me. And I just kept reading book after book. And they were not self-development books. They were not business books. I stayed away from all of that. And I just got like fantasy, fairy tale, whatever, you know, like magic-y kind of things or whatever, just to kind of get the imagination going, fill up my time, and then, you know, get kind of re-inspired. And it took me 3 months of just trying to like reset myself of all these different things that were kind of happening. You know, and I did pull myself away from interacting with people, which did not help. So I highly recommend, don't cut people off. Keep them in your life and let them know what you're going through, because you will get out of it a hell of a lot faster than 3 months. I can promise you that. But then once I kind of got through it, I actually switched what I was traditionally doing, because I've always been a consultant. I've been doing it for like 10 years. And I wanted to work on my sales skills. And so I'm like talking to some people like, okay, well, this sales program is 10 grand. This one is 8 grand. This, you know, all these different things we had to invest money in. And I'm just like, you know, I'm a program developer and creator. I'm like, why would I want to go do a program and spend all this money when sales and everything else is about repetition? It's about practice. It's about failing and figuring out how to do it. So I actually went and became an advisor in a company where I was qualifying people into a program and seeing if they would work or not. They were, you know, good enough to be, or if they're prepared to be an entrepreneur, and also becoming a closer and going through like, you know, scripts and sales closing things and all this other stuff. And I did that for only a couple months because it had nothing to do with what I was doing before. It was a skill set that I wanted to work on and grow and cultivate. So why not make money while I'm learning a skill set instead of actually paying out and just learning someone telling me what to do, but not actually having anyone to practice on? Mm-hmm. So that's how I actually reset myself. I put myself back out there in a different way to learn a skill set where I had no responsibilities. I had no clients. I had none of this like self-promoting or sales funnels or marketing or anything along those lines. I just went into one thing, did one thing, learned a new thing, had my schedule, you know, kind of like a 9-to-5 job-ish per se, but even though it was not, it was based on whatever I wanted to do. I had full flexibility. And because of that, it reinvigorated me to finally be like, okay, I'm ready to put myself back out there now. I'm ready to get back out there. And then I had I reached out to people because I'm all about connecting and working with people. And I had one call with one of the really amazing marketing strategists. She's out to Katya. She's absolutely amazing. I had literally one phone call with her. Not even 40 minutes later, I had already mapped out literally the next year of my life of what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. Like, I didn't know what the end was going to be, but I knew what the first step was going to be. I didn't care about the end. I just needed to know the first step. Mm-hmm. And that just sparked an interest, you know, like, and it just kind of cultivated and grew and grew. And then I built the team and I built all these different offers and programs. And then you moved into like the media and the PR and like getting on TV and, doing all these publications and getting an entrepreneur magazine and all this stuff all stemmed back from January from one phone call that allowed me to kind of get going. So I had to reset and take myself out of what was my normal life in order for me to be able to walk back into it. So for anyone who's like not unsure of what they're doing and they're spinning and they're feeling they're at the bottom of the bucket and they can't see the light of day, it's all good. We all go through that. Sometimes it could be a week, sometimes it could be months, sometimes it could be 6 months. But as long as you just like completely cut yourself off from what's not working without cutting off your support system and letting people know what you're going through, and then find something that you want to kind of try to learn and see how you can do that easily without having to make an investment per se, but try something different. Because, it's like eating really good cheese compared to crappy. As soon as you have good cheese, you can't go back to crappy cheese again. So you can go try something. You're like, this is totally not for me. This is a really great experience. I really absolutely loved it. I have lots to take away from it. Now I'm ready to get back on the horse again and go full on. So, that's kind of like what I've basically done in a year or so of the last little bit of my life.
Nice. And I know what you're talking about there too, in terms of when people in general, they put undue pressure on themselves and it a lot of times freaks them out, and it stops their progress. And obviously what you were able to do in that situation is take yourself out of that situation that you were in, and then put yourself in honestly like more of a non-pressure situation where you can start to learn from it.
Yeah.
We that's what we typically do. We think it's the end of the world because we can't get this deadline or whatever it is, and you put all this undue pressure on yourself where it stunts your creativity, it stunts your progress.
Yeah, and I'm a creative genius. I used to make jewelry, painter. Like I'm just an artsy fartsy type of individual, and if I'm not connected to the source or God or whatever you want to call it, if I'm not connected to it, I can't be creative. And when you're under a hell of a lot of pressure, that usually cuts. It's like you're squeezing it so hard. There's just no way there's going to be any flow coming in through there. So if you just let it go, the universe always provides. It always comes back. The ideas, the people you meet, the conversations you have start sparking interest. And then you're like, oh crap, now I know what to do. Let's go.
and hey, that's how you're able to get like your entire year, right? Within like a 40-minute phone call. So
literally. Yep.
So obviously I know you're doing a ton. At this point, you've got a lot going on. I read a book called The One Thing from Gary Keller, and he talks about like the one thing that's going to kind of basically like,
great book.
So I'd ask you, like, what's your most important thing right now that you're working on? I know you got that 5-day challenge coming up. What's your most important thing right now?
You know what? I have been consistently pivoting over the last year. As I sort of mentioned before, I'm like, I know what I want to do, but I'm not 100% sure. And I want to like make one little step and whatnot. And so it's been a whole pivoting. And literally as of last Friday, because I decided to work with Clinton Selcoat, who focuses on partnerships and bringing people into your life in different capacities in a partnership aspect. And so I was like, okay, focused on, our high-end clients, the really big guys who are doing great and how we can turn them around, how we can discover millions of dollars for them. It's all fine and dandy. But then when you had just asked me, like, what really gets me? Well, what really gets me is talking to a lot of people and helping a lot of people just push past their barriers, get to the next level of whatever it is they're trying to go for. And so the one thing right now is a new program that I'm building out, actually, that's for all e-commerce across all e-commerce platforms that will be launching in January. So that's I've finally figured out like where I really want to focus on and how I can give back. And how I can be in my state of genius. And so my one thing is a new program that I'm going to be putting out there. So that's it. I'm very excited. I'll let you know how it goes.
I'm going to want to know more about it as it's ready to go. So as we're kind of like heading down the home stretch, this is one question that I was on a friend of mine's podcast, and he asked this question, and I liked it so much I've pretty much asked everybody else since. The question is, what's your definition of success?
Oh man, that one is like a hot one. That's like, you're like, which direction do you want to go with that one? For me, success is truly down to the core of if I have an idea or a goal, executing it and seeing it happen. Whether it happens exactly how you see it or not, just the fact that you executed it and it happened. That's success, because all those tiny little successes basically hit your milestones, then they hit your goals, and then you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. Look at how much crap I've done. Because you can't you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards, right? So yeah, just one little idea. It's like, I want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning for the next 7 days. You get up and you actually do it. That's success. You know what I mean? I want to reach out and make a larger network and have more people in my circle that I can talk to. Have a phone call. You know, I call it speed dating for entrepreneurs. What do you do? What do you do? Can I be a referral for you? Can you be a referral for me? Great. You know, and then you move on. That's success. So, you know, success for me is not money. It's not, you know, being on TV. It's not whatever. It's just one tiny little idea that you want to accomplish and you accomplishing it.
All right, I love that. That's a great answer. So I wanted to thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on today and sharing your story, your expert insight. It was so great talking to you, and I wanted to ask you, how can our listeners find out more about what you were doing?
That's a really great question. I really appreciate it. I am currently rebranding right now, but you can find me at amazauthority.com, AMAZ authority.com. And for the 5-day challenge, that is specifically to help e-commerce sellers across all platforms, Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Shopify, even Facebook Marketplace, you're going to want to go to higherholidayconversions.com. Higherholidayconversions.com. Bring all your friends who are sellers, because we're there to kick off this holiday season and making sure that we are making sure that you're probably positioned, you're going to capitalize on the fourth quarter, and you're going to end this year on a high.
Awesome. And we're definitely going to have links for that as well, so everyone can check it out. So thank you again, Ashley, and talk to everyone next time on Morning Marketing Machine. All right. Bye.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.